interesting thing about being here is that it takes me back to my youth. I grew up on a dairy farm in Minnesota.
I grew up on a farm also. Nature and the earth are just part of my life and how I live and breathe.
I grew up on a farm in the country.
I grew up in Wilkes County, North Wilkesboro, that's between Winston-Salem and Boone, and it is also in the foothills, so I am very accustomed to the mountain area.
I did have a lot of inspiration as a child. I lived up in Washington, D.C., so my mother took us to the Smithsonian Institute a lot.
I actually grew up in the mountains of Asheville, North Carolina, and I've always had a passion for my environment.
We had a white house and a red barn, and we had a pony, and we had probably 40 cattle and 300 chickens and 25 pigs. And I always felt deprived not having had any goats. So when we moved here, and my wife was reading all the publicity stuff, and she said, I see that there's a place called the Carl Sandburg home. And she said, you get yourself down there and get on that list, because that's the only way you're going to get this goat fix out of your system. I'm probably the only volunteer in the national park system that gets off the organ bench and then comes down, put my barn shoes on, and comes down to 10 goats. So I'm determined to have a colorful obituary, and if I can say that he was both an organist and a goat tender, we will have accomplished that.
I ride an old paint, I lead an old Dan, I'm going to Montana for to throw the Julian. They feed in the coulees, they water in the draw, their tails are all matted, their backs are all raw.
Someone once said that the best thing that this country ever did was the National Park Service, and I totally agree. I mean, we have to support and preserve our natural resources for future generations.
You have to pass it on, and the next generation of youngsters who come here and enjoy it and see what nature has to offer, and to carry it on.
Today's public are more educated, they're more worldly, they're more interested, they're more focused on meaningful things. So I think that is already changing the face of the Park Service.
I think that education is definitely the best way, if not one of the best ways, to influence a younger generation to embrace sustainable ways of living and thinking and also interacting with each other.
I think that education is vitally important. So once people are aware of their impact, they oftentimes just need somebody to open the door to provide that awareness about how their behaviors, beliefs, attitudes affect the natural world.
Early in the morning when it looked like rain, around the bend come a gravel train. On that train was Casey Jones. He's a good old rounder, but he's dead and gone.
Historic sites, I think, are a really important piece of the National Park Service. So I think that Carl Sandburg National Historic Site is such a wonderful, lovely place to learn this, and also to be able to grow by understanding and really being receptive and respectful and very sensitive to the value and fragility of the meaning of place and what it means to be here and to look up at the trees and to be at the goat barn and to be in Carl Sandburg's home before he died. Like the impact that his legacy is having continually on people that visit the park, but also with the National Park Service in general.
For us, we love gardening, and this is a way we can give back to the community.
I think it helps keep history alive. You can see where he lived.
The house has so much history and so much atmosphere, and I think it's really interesting to have something that's in the Park Service that's not just about nature, that is an historic house that has a lot of things to say to people.
I didn't get in the Park Service because I liked history. I got in the Park Service because I wanted to walk around in the woods and talk to people about critters. I realized that day that where history happens, the Park Service brings it to life. The land that we're walking on, people have lived and died and cried and sang on those places. And so I think it was after my Park Service job that I was inspired to love our historical sites as well.
I just love the outdoors, and I love the experience of working with the Park Service. I think that this particular facility would be in a problematic state were it not for the fact that there are many volunteers here who do a lot of different things.
Every single time I'm here, with every tour, I'm asked a question I don't know the answer to. So it's a learning curve for me every day.
Even since I've been in the Park Service for 17 years, I realize that as an agency, as a federal agency, we can't do what we do to protect our resources without the engagement of volunteers, advocates, and supporters.
I grew up in New York City, and probably the closest I came to a tree was 1.5 miles.
I'm going away for to stay a little while, but I'm coming back if I go 10,000 miles.